The gardener was fired for theft and the millionaire saw his pendant. The same one he gave his son before he disappeared 26 years ago. The morning sun cast long shadows across Highland Estate as Edward Miller carefully snipped a wilting leaf from his prized roses. At 67, his hands weren't as steady as they once were, but they still moved with practiced precision among the thorns. The garden had been his sanctuary since Catherine's death, and even more so since Michael vanished 26 years ago. "These bourbon roses are looking strong this season," he murmured to himself, gently touching a crimson bloom. Michael would have loved to see them. From the house, Jessica Harper watched through the kitchen window, her thin lips pressed into a line of disapproval. 8 years as Catherine's nurse, and 15 more as Edward's right hand had given her complete control over Highland Estate. She wiped her hands on her apron and called out the open window. "Edward, your heart medication. You know, doctor. Reynolds insists you take it with breakfast." Edward straightened, wincing as his back protested. "Coming, Jess." As he walked toward the house, a movement near the gardener's cottage caught his attention. Cody emerged, tools in hand, his young face serious as always. For 8 months, the boy had tended the grounds with an almost reverent dedication. There was something about him that Edward couldn't quite place, something familiar that tugged at the edges of his memory. "Good morning, Mr. Miller," Cody called, keeping a respectful distance. "Morning, boy. The east section needs attention. Betty always said those roses were the thirstiest." At the mention of Betty, a shadow crossed Cody's face. "Yes, sir. I remember." Jessica appeared at Edward's side, small white pills in her outstretched palm. "Edward, inside. It's getting warm, and you know what the doctor said about overexertion." As Edward reluctantly followed Jessica inside, Cody's gaze lingered on them, something unreadable in his expression. Nicole Miller adjusted her sunglasses as she steered the rental car up the winding driveway toward Highland Estate. Beside her, her mother Amanda stared out the window, her once vibrant face now gaunt and pale. "I can't believe it's been 15 years, Amanda whispered. "Nothing's changed." Nicole squeezed her mother's hand. "You didn't have to come, Mom. We could have waited until you felt stronger." Amanda shook her head. "There's no time for waiting anymore, Nikki." A coughing fit doubled her over, and Nicole waited anxiously for it to pass. At 27, Nicole had just completed her forensic investigator training when her mother's mysterious illness accelerated. The decision to return to Highland Estate had been Amanda's, insistent and urgent despite her declining health. As they rounded the final curve, the mansion came into view, grand, imposing, and eerily unchanged. Nicole parked in front of the stone steps and helped her mother from the car. The front door opened before they reached it. Jessica Harper stood in the doorway, her surprise quickly masked by a welcoming smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Amanda, what an unexpected pleasure. Edward didn't mention you were coming." "He doesn't know," Amanda replied, her voice stronger than it had been in weeks. "It was a last-minute decision." Jessica's gaze shifted to Nicole, assessing. "And this must be little Nicole, how you've grown." Nicole extended her hand. "Ms. Harper, it's been a long time." "Indeed it has." Jessica's grip was cool and firm. "Edward is resting, his heart, you know. But come in. I'll prepare the East Wing rooms." As they entered the grand foyer, Nicole caught her breath. The memories came rushing back, running down these halls as a child, playing hide-and-seek with Michael during family gatherings before he disappeared, before everything changed. "I'll take Mom upstairs," Nicole said. "She needs to rest." Jessica's smile tightened. "Of course. I'll bring up some tea. Edward will be so surprised." As Nicole helped Amanda up the sweeping staircase, she felt Jessica's eyes boring into her back. Edward was dozing in his study when a knock at the door roused him. Jessica entered, her face uncharacteristically flustered. "Edward, you have visitors." "Amanda is here, with Nicole." Edward sat up straight, the fog of medication clearing instantly. "Amanda, here. Why wasn't I told they were coming?" "It was a surprise, apparently," Jessica replied, her voice neutral despite the tension in her shoulders. "They're settling in upstairs. Amanda doesn't look well." Edward stood, steadying himself against his desk. "What do you mean, what's wrong with her?" "I'm not sure yet, but it reminds me of..." Jessica hesitated. "Of what?" Edward demanded. Of Catherine, in the early days. The color drained from Edward's face. That's impossible, that was. It was a rare condition. The doctors said, I know what they said. Jessica soothed, taking his arm. Let me help you upstairs. And Edward, try not to upset yourself, your heart, remember. From the garden, Cody watched the newcomers through the roses. The younger woman, tall, confident, helped the older one from the car. Something about her struck him, sending a jolt of recognition through his chest. This had to be Nicole, Michael's cousin. Betty had described her, shown him old photographs, explained the connection. He hadn't expected her to return now, just as his plan was taking shape. Months of careful work, gaining Edward's trust, searching for evidence while avoiding Jessica's suspicious gaze, and now this complication. Cody retreated to the gardener's cottage and pulled out the old tin box hidden beneath a loose floorboard. Inside lay newspaper clippings, notes in Betty's spidery handwriting, and the silver medallion, his father's medallion. The angel's face gleamed in the afternoon light, the inscription still clear. To my son Michael, your blood is my blood, until eternity, Father. A soft knock at his door made him hastily hide the box. Through the window, he saw Nicole standing outside, her posture straight but hesitant, taking a deep breath. Cody opened the door, careful to maintain the persona he'd crafted. Can I help you, miss? Nicole studied him with keen eyes. I'm Nicole Miller, Edward's niece. I was hoping to speak with the gardener about the roses. My uncle mentioned you're quite knowledgeable. Cody Davis, ma'am. I've only been here 8 months, but I'd be happy to show you around. As they walked toward the main garden, Nicole cast a sideways glance at his profile. Have we met before, Mr. Davis? You seem familiar somehow. Cody kept his eyes on the path ahead. I don't believe so, Miss Miller. I think I'd remember. Back at the main house. Amanda Miller lay in her bed, her breathing labored. From her handbag, she withdrew a small leather-bound journal, its pages yellow with age, Catherine's diary, the one she'd managed to hide from Jessica years ago. When Nicole returned, Amanda beckoned her close, pressing the diary into her hands. Mom, what is this? Catherine's, Amanda whispered. Read it, decode it. She was always clever with her little codes, even as children. What am I looking for? Amanda's fingers tightened around Nicole's wrist with surprising strength. The truth, Nikki, about Michael, about Catherine's death. Her eyes darted toward the door. Nothing in Highland Estate is what it seems. Remember that? Mom, you're scaring me. Good, Amanda replied, her voice fading as exhaustion overtook her. You should be scared. We all should be. Outside the window, the roses swayed in the afternoon breeze, their thorns sharp and waiting. That night, Nicole sat cross-legged on her bed, Catherine's diary open in her lap. The leather binding was cracked with age, the pages filled with her aunt's elegant script. At first glance, it appeared to be ordinary entries about daily life, gardening notes, household accounts, social visits. But Nicole quickly noticed the pattern of dots beneath certain letters, a simple cipher she and Catherine had devised during childhood summers. Clever, Aunt Catherine, Nicole murmured, grabbing a notepad to work through the code. The first decoded message sent a chill down her spine. Jessica watches everything. Don't trust the medication, as she continued deciphering. A knock at her door made her jump. She slipped the diary under her pillow before calling, Come in. Jessica entered with a cup of steaming tea. I thought you might need this after your long journey. How's Amanda resting? Finally asleep, Nicole said, watching Jessica's eyes scan the room. Thank you for the tea. Of course. We're family, after all. Jessica placed the cup on the nightstand. Edward would like to see you in the morning. He's quite overwhelmed by your sudden arrival. I'm sure he is, Nicole replied, keeping her tone neutral. Mom was insistent we come now. Jessica lingered by the bookshelf, fingers trailing over old volumes. Amanda never did explain why she left so abruptly after Catherine's funeral. Some losses are harder to bear than others. Indeed, Jessica's smile didn't reach her eyes. Well, drink your tea before it gets cold. Good night, Nicole. After Jessica left, Nicole stared at the untouched cup. She waited 10 minutes, then quietly dumped the liquid into a potted plant, her aunt's warning echoing in her mind. The following morning, Edward sat in his study, gazing at an old photograph of Michael. The boy had his mother's eyes and Edward's stubborn chin. He looked up when Nicole entered, hastily returning the photo to a drawer. "Uncle Edward," Nicole said, embracing him. "It's been too long." "Look at you," Edward replied, his voice thick with emotion. "The spitting image of your mother at your age." He gestured to a chair. "Sit, please. Tell me about your work." "A forensic investigator. That's quite impressive," Nicole smiled. "Just finished my certification. I was planning to start at the county lab next month, but with Mom's condition," Edward's expression darkened. "Yes, Jessica mentioned Amanda isn't well. What exactly is wrong? The doctors aren't sure. Progressive weakness, confusion, stomach pains." Nicole hesitated. "Mom says it reminds her of Aunt Catherine's illness." Edward's hand trembled as he reached for a glass of water. That's impossible. Catherine had a rare degenerative condition." "Did she?" Nicole asked quietly. "The symptoms started after Michael disappeared, right?" Edward stared out the window at the rose garden, where Cody was carefully pruning the white blooms. "Michael," he whispered. "So headstrong. Just like me, if only I'd listened." Nicole followed his gaze. "What happened that night, Uncle Edward?" Mom would never talk about it. 26 years earlier, rain pounded on the windows of Highland Estate as thunder rolled across the sky. In Edward's study, voices rose above the storm. "She's a Thompson, for God's sake!" Edward shouted, slamming his fist on the desk. "Have you forgotten their family tried to bankrupt us? That Robert Thompson diverted our water rights for years?" 18-year-old Michael stood his ground, chin raised defiantly. "Sarah isn't her father. I love her, and I won't let your ancient feud dictate my life." Catherine placed a calming hand on her husband's arm. "Edward, please, Michael's an adult now." "An adult," Edward scoffed. "He's throwing away his future for a summer romance." "It's not just a romance," Michael insisted. "Sarah's pregnant." The room fell silent except for the rain. Edward's face drained of color. "You've made a Thompson girl pregnant," he finally said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Get out." "Edward?" Catherine gasped. "No, it's fine," Michael said coldly, backing toward the door. "I'm leaving anyway. Sarah and I are going away together. I came to say goodbye, not to ask permission." "If you walk out that door," Edward warned, "don't bother coming back." Michael's eyes, so like his mother's, hardened. "Goodbye, Father." The door slammed behind him. It was the last time anyone at Highland Estate saw Michael Miller alive. "I was so angry," Edward told Nicole, his voice barely audible. "I thought he'd cool off, come back in a few days, but he never did." He looked up, eyes glistening. "The police found his car abandoned at Spencer Creek Bridge, but no sign of Michael. Some thought suicide. Others suspected foul play. After a year, the case went cold." "And Sarah Thompson?" Nicole asked. "Disappeared around the same time. Her father claimed she'd gone to live with relatives overseas." Edward passed a hand over his face. "Catherine never believed it. She started investigating on her own, but then her illness began. After she died, I just gave up." Nicole reached for his hand. "I'm sorry, Uncle Edward." A knock interrupted them. Jessica entered with a small pill case. "Time for your medication, Edward." Her eyes flicked to Nicole. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "Just catching up," Edward said, accepting the pills. Nicole was asking about Michael. Something flickered across Jessica's face. Too quick to name. "Such a tragedy, Edward. Don't forget, Doctor. Reynolds is coming at 2. She turned to Nicole. "Perhaps you should check on your mother. She seemed quite agitated this morning." After Jessica left, Edward swallowed his pills with a grimace. "Jessica's been my rock since Catherine died. Don't know what I'd do without her." Nicole nodded, watching how quickly the medication seemed to dull her uncle's eyes. "I should go see Mom. We'll talk more later." Outside, Nicole found Cody trimming the hedge that bordered the eastern lawn. Something about his methodical movements captivated her, each cut precise, almost reverent. "You seem to genuinely care about these gardens," she said, approaching. Cody glanced up, then returned to his work. "Plants are honest, Miss Miller. They respond to how you treat them. No deception. Unlike people." A slight smile touched his lips. "I wouldn't know about that. How did you come to work at Highland Estate?" Betty, the previous gardener, was a family friend. When she passed, Mr. Miller needed help. Simple as that. Nicole studied his profile. There was something oddly familiar about his features. Did you know my cousin Michael? You'd have been very young, but Cody's shears slipped, nearly cutting his finger. No, ma'am. As I said, I've only been here 8 months. He looked toward the house. Miss Harper is watching us. She doesn't approve of the staff chatting with family. Nicole turned to see Jessica at an upstairs window, her posture rigid. Why doesn't that surprise me? She murmured. One more question. Have there been any thefts on the property recently? Cody's expression turned guarded. You should ask Miss Harper about that, ma'am. As Nicole walked away, she didn't see Cody slip his hand into his pocket, fingers closing around the silver medallion hidden there. That evening, Nicole continued decoding Catherine's diary in her room. The more she read, the more disturbed she became. Her aunt had documented increasingly suspicious behavior from Jessica. Missing medication, mysterious phone calls, unexplained access to estate accounts. A soft tap at her door startled her. Amanda entered, looking frailer than ever in her nightgown. Mom, you should be resting, Nicole said, helping her to a chair. No time for rest, Amanda whispered. Have you decoded it yet? Parts of it. Aunt Catherine was suspicious of Jessica. Amanda nodded. Catherine called me, a week before she died. Said she had proof Jessica was poisoning her. I was going to come, but then... She pressed a hand to her stomach, wincing. The diary was all she could hide in time. Mom, what are you saying? History repeats, Nikki. Amanda's eyes drifted to the window. Watch the new gardener. He's not what he seems either. Before Nicole could press further, a crash from downstairs interrupted them. They hurried to the hallway to find Edward kneeling beside a fallen display case. Precious family heirlooms scattered across the floor. Jessica was already there, helping Edward up. What happened? She demanded. Edward looked confused. I don't know. I thought I saw someone. Another missing episode. Jessica sighed, addressing Nicole and Amanda. The doctor says they'll get worse with time. Nicole bent to examine the case. The lock had been forced, and several items, including Catherine's antique locket, were missing. This wasn't an accident, she said. Someone broke in. Jessica's eyes narrowed. Nothing is missing. Edward simply had an episode. Catherine's locket is gone, Amanda insisted. It's been gone for years, Jessica countered. Right after your cousin disappeared, in fact. As they argued, Nicole noticed Cody watching from the garden door, his expression unreadable. When their eyes met, he quickly disappeared into the darkness. The following morning, a heated argument echoed from Edward's study. Nicole paused in the hallway, listening to Jessica's sharp tone cutting through the oak door. Edward, be reasonable. Things have been disappearing for weeks. First your father's pocket watch, then Catherine's pearl earrings, and now this. We don't know that Cody took anything, Edward replied, his voice weaker than Jessica's but still stubborn. The boy has been nothing but dedicated. That's how these people operate, Jessica insisted. They gain your trust, then take advantage. Betty vouched for him, but Betty's judgment was questionable in her final years. Nicole knocked and entered without waiting for permission. Jessica stood by the window, arms crossed, while Edward sat behind his desk looking exhausted. Is everything all right? Nicole asked. Jessica smiled thinly. Just a small staff issue, nothing for you to worry about. If it's about last night's break-in, I'd like to help, Nicole said. I am a trained investigator after all. Edward brightened. That's an excellent idea. These are family matters, Jessica countered. Besides, your mother needs you. Mom's resting comfortably, Nicole said, holding Jessica's gaze. And as family, I'm concerned about these thefts. Jessica's smile tightened. Very well. I've already called the police about Cody Davis. They'll be here this afternoon. Edward looked up, alarmed. You did what? Without consulting me. I was protecting you, Edward, as I always do. Jessica checked her watch. I need to prepare your noon medications, excuse me. After she left, Nicole turned to her uncle. You don't believe Cody's responsible. Edward sighed. I don't know what to believe anymore, but something about that boy. He reminds me of someone. Michael, Nicole suggested quietly. Edward's eyes widened. Yes, how did you? I noticed it too. Nicole sat across from him. Uncle Edward, how much do you actually know about Cody? Not much. Betty recommended him before she passed. Said he had a gift with plants. Edward rubbed his temples. Jessica thinks I'm losing my mind. Seeing Michael in every young man. Maybe she's right. Nicole squeezed his hand. I don't think you're losing your mind. But I do think we should talk to Cody before the police arrive. They found Cody in the greenhouse, carefully transplanting rose cuttings. His movements were methodical, almost surgeon-like in their precision. He looked up as they entered, wiping soil from his hands. Mr. Miller, Miss Miller, Cody, Edward began awkwardly. There's been some concern about missing items from the house. The young man's face remained impassive. Miss Harper thinks I took them. Did you? Nicole asked directly. No, ma'am. I respect Mr. Miller and this property too much for that. Edward studied him. Jessica has called the police. They'll be here soon. Something flickered in Cody's eyes. Not fear, but calculation. I see. If you have nothing to hide. There's nothing to worry about, Nicole said, watching his reaction carefully. With all due respect, Miss Miller, the police tend to see what they expect to see. A young man with no family, working on a wealthy estate where items go missing. The conclusion seems obvious. You have no family? Edward asked. Cody hesitated. My mother died when I was young. I never knew my father. Nicole noted how he avoided direct lies while concealing the truth. Cody, if you're innocent, let us help you. But we need to know the truth. The truth, Cody repeated softly, turning back to his roses. The truth is complicated. Miss Miller, Edward stepped forward. I'm not going to let an innocent man be accused without a chance to defend himself. Jessica may run this house, but I still own it. Cody looked up, surprised at Edward's sudden firmness. Thank you, sir, but I think it might be better if I left. I've saved enough to... Nonsense, Edward interrupted. I won't hear of it. You're staying. At least until we sort this out. As they left the greenhouse, Nicole whispered to her uncle. That was unexpected. Edward straightened his shoulders. Sometimes Jessica forgets whose name is on the deed. By afternoon, dark clouds gathered over Highland Estate. Promising another thunderstorm, Nicole found Jessica in the kitchen, aggressively chopping vegetables. The police just called, Jessica said without looking up. They're delayed until tomorrow, apparently. Petty theft isn't a priority. That's unfortunate, Nicole replied, keeping her tone neutral. Uncle Edward has decided Cody stays until there's proof against him. Jessica's knife paused mid-chop. Edward isn't thinking clearly. His medication. About that, Nicole interrupted. What exactly are you giving him? His symptoms seem to worsen after each dose. Jessica's smile was cold as ice. I'm a registered nurse, Nicole. Edward's medication is prescribed by Dr. Reynolds. If you have concerns, take them up with him. She resumed chopping with renewed vigor, though I doubt he'll appreciate a newly certified forensic technician questioning his expertise. Investigator, Nicole corrected. And I'm not questioning his expertise, just your administration of it. Their standoff was interrupted by a crash of thunder, followed by Edward's voice shouting from the front of the house. They rushed to find him at the open door, rain pouring in as he called out to Cody, who was walking down the driveway with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. Edward, close the door. You'll catch your death, Jessica scolded. Edward ignored her. Cody, come back here this instant. The young man paused, rain plastering his hair to his forehead, but didn't turn. Edward stepped onto the porch despite Jessica's protests. That's an order, not a request. Reluctantly, Cody trudged back toward the house. As he climbed the steps, his foot caught on the uneven stone. He stumbled, dropping his bag. The contents spilled across the wet porch. Clothes, a dog-eared book, and something small and silver that skittered to a stop at Edward's feet. The world seemed to freeze as Edward bent to pick up the medallion. His hands trembled as he turned the silver angel over, revealing the inscription on the back. Where did you get this? He whispered, voice barely audible above the rain. Cody stood motionless, rain streaming down his face. Sir, I can explain. This was Michael's. Edward looked up, his eyes wild. I gave this to my son on his 15th birthday. How do you have it? Jessica pushed past Nicole. He stole it, obviously, just like the other items. No, Edward said, his voice gaining strength. This wasn't in the house. Michael was wearing it the night he disappeared. A heavy silence fell, broken only by the pounding rain. Nicole stepped forward. "Cody, you need to tell us the truth now." The young man's shoulders sagged. "Can we go inside? It's a long story." In Edward's study, Cody sat with a towel around his shoulders, the medallion now on the desk between them. Jessica hovered near Edward, her face a mask of concern that didn't reach her eyes. "My mother was Sarah Thompson," Cody began, his voice steady despite his dripping clothes. "She died when I was 8. Betty raised me after that." Edward leaned forward. "Betty, our Betty." Cody nodded. "She was friends with my mother when Sarah died. Betty took me in, raised me in a small town about 50 miles from here. Convenient that neither woman is alive to verify this tale," Jessica commented. Cody ignored her. "Before she died, Betty told me about Highland Estate, about the Miller family. She said I had a right to know my history." He reached for the medallion. "She gave me this, said it belonged to my mother, who got it from a man she loved, a man named Michael Miller." Edward's face had gone pale. "If what you're saying is true, then you're Sarah Thompson's son," Cody finished carefully. "Yes, sir," Jessica scoffed. "This is absurd. He's clearly lying to avoid arrest. Sarah Thompson disappeared the same time Michael did. Everyone knows that." "Not exactly," Cody countered. "She went into hiding when she discovered she was pregnant. Her father would have disowned her for carrying a Miller child." Nicole studied him intently. "You said you were 8 when she died. That would make you 26, Cody supplied quickly. "The same age Michael would have been when he disappeared," Nicole noted. The timeline didn't quite add up, but she kept that observation to herself. Edward stood suddenly, swaying slightly. I need to think." He picked up the medallion, clutching it tightly. "No one is calling the police. No one is leaving until I figure out what's happening in my house. Everything stays as it is." He looked at Cody. "Including you, young man." As Edward left the room, Jessica close behind, Nicole remained, watching Cody's face carefully. "You're not telling the whole truth," she said once they were alone. A sad smile touched his lips. "No one in this house is, Miss Miller. Not even you." Nicole slipped into her mother's darkened room, moving quietly to avoid waking her. Amanda lay still, her breathing shallow, skin waxy in the dim light filtering through the heavy curtains. On the bedside table sat 3 amber prescription bottles with Jessica's precise handwriting on the labels. Carefully, Nicole photographed each bottle with her phone, then using a small plastic bag from her pocket, collected a sample from each. As she worked, Amanda's eyes fluttered open. "Nikki," she whispered, "be careful." Nicole took her mother's hand. "How are you feeling?" "Like I'm disappearing piece by piece." "Just like Catherine did." Amanda's fingers tightened around Nicole's. "Did you find anything in the diary?" "Some things," Nicole admitted. "But it's slow work with the code, Mom. I need to ask. Did you start feeling sick before or after you decided to come here?" Amanda's cloudy eyes focused briefly. "Before, that's why I came. I recognized the symptoms from watching Catherine waste away. The doctors are baffled, but I know." Her voice dropped lower. "It's her, just like with Catherine." "Jessica," Nicole confirmed. Amanda nodded weakly. "I suspected for years, but had no proof. Then last month. She came to visit me, brought tea and biscuits. So thoughtful." Her laugh turned into a cough. 2 days later, I couldn't get out of bed. Nicole's blood ran cold. "She poisoned you. Watch your uncle," Amanda warned. "His heart condition started the same way. Confusion, weakness, strange episodes." A soft knock interrupted them. Nicole quickly pocketed the samples as the door opened to reveal Jessica with a tray. "Time for Amanda's medication," Jessica announced, her smile professional. "How are we feeling today?" "Tired," Amanda replied, her earlier alertness evaporating. "So tired." Jessica efficiently arranged pills into a small cup. "These will help with the pain." She glanced at Nicole. "You look exhausted, dear. Why don't you get some rest? I can sit with Amanda." "I'm fine," Nicole said firmly. "I'll stay." Jessica's smile remained, but her eyes hardened. "Suit yourself." She handed the cup to Amanda, who obediently swallowed the pills. "Dr. Reynolds will be by tomorrow to check on both Edward and Amanda. Such a blessing to have him manage the family's care. After Jessica left, Nicole waited a few minutes before carefully extracting the pills from her mother's mouth, where she'd hidden them under her tongue. "Good girl," Amanda murmured. "You always were clever." Nicole added the pills to her collection of samples. "I need to get these analyzed. There's a lab in town that might help." Amanda's eyelids drooped. "The gardener. Watch him too, not what he seems." "Rest, Mom," Nicole whispered, kissing her forehead. "I'll handle everything." In the kitchen, Nicole found Cody making tea, his movements as precise with household tasks as they were in the garden. "Miss Harper won't like you using the family kitchen," she remarked, leaning against the doorframe. "Miss Harper is giving Mr. Miller his evening medication. This provides approximately 8 minutes of freedom." He glanced up. "Tea." Nicole accepted the cup he offered. "Why did you lie about your age?" Cody didn't flinch. "I never explicitly stated my age. You implied you were 26, if you're Sarah Thompson's son, and Sarah disappeared at the same time as Michael. You can't be older than 25. Very observant." Cody sipped his tea. "Does it matter? It matters if you're hiding something that could help my uncle, or hurt him." Cody set down his cup. "I'm not here to hurt Edward Miller." "Then why are you here? The truth this time." Before he could answer, the kitchen door swung open, and Jessica entered. Her eyes darted between them, suspicion evident. "Nicole, I've been looking for you. Edward wants to speak with you." Her gaze shifted to Cody. "I believe the eastern hedges need attention, Davis." Cody nodded respectfully. "Just finishing my break, ma'am." He rinsed his cup and slipped past Jessica, who watched him with narrowed eyes. "You should be careful around him," Jessica said once he was gone. "His story doesn't add up." "No," Nicole agreed. "None of the stories in this house seem to add up." Jessica's smile was tight. "Edward is waiting in his study." Edward sat behind his desk, the medallion in his hands, turning it over repeatedly as if it might reveal new secrets with each rotation. "You wanted to see me?" Nicole asked, closing the door behind her. Edward looked up, his eyes clearer than she'd seen since arriving. "I haven't been taking my medication," he confessed. "Not since yesterday. My mind feels sharper." Nicole sat across from him. "Maybe that's because you don't need as much as you've been given." Edward's brow furrowed. "What are you suggesting?" "Uncle Edward, do you remember when your heart condition was diagnosed?" He thought for a moment. "About 5 years ago, I started having episodes. Confusion, weakness. Jessica was concerned and called Dr. Reynolds. He's been treating me since. And Dr. Reynolds is an old colleague of Jessica's from her nursing days. He retired to private practice." Edward's eyes narrowed. "Nicole, what are you getting at?" "I'd like to take samples of your medication to be analyzed." Edward stared at her. "You think Jessica is—" "No, that's impossible. She's cared for this family for decades." "Uncle Edward, my mother is experiencing the same symptoms Catherine had, and now you. Don't you find that strange?" Edward clutched the medallion tighter. "Even if what you're suggesting were true, why, what would Jessica gain?" "Control of Highland Estate," Nicole said simply. "She's been managing everything for years, with you increasingly dependent on her, and no direct heirs." "But Michael's son," Edward trailed off, looking down at the medallion. "If he is Michael's son," Nicole cautioned, "we only have his word and a medallion that could have been acquired in other ways." Edward sank back in his chair. "I don't know what to believe anymore." He pushed a small leather box across the desk. "My medication. Take what you need for your tests." Nicole carefully collected samples. "I'll have answers soon. Until then, keep pretending to take the pills and watch Cody. We still don't know his true intentions." The town's medical laboratory was small, but well-equipped. Dr. Sanchez, an old friend of Nicole's from university, agreed to analyze the samples as a personal favor. "This is highly irregular," she said, labeling the containers. "You realize I should be asking for proper documentation." "I know, Elena, but this is family. I think someone's being poisoned." Dr. Sanchez raised an eyebrow. "That's a serious accusation. What am I looking for?" "Start with common neurotoxins. Something that would cause progressive weakness, confusion, stomach aches, heart palpitations." "That narrows it down to about 50 substances." Elena sighed. "I'll run the tests. But if I find something illegal, I'm obligated to report it. I'm counting on it, Nicole replied, when Nicole returned to Highland Estate. She found her mother's room empty, the bed neatly made. Panic surged through her until she heard voices from the garden. Through the window, she spotted Amanda in a wheelchair, Edward beside her, both watching Cody work among the roses. Jessica approached from behind. "The fresh air is good for them both," she said, her voice startling Nicole. "Your mother insisted despite my concerns about her strength. How thoughtful of you to allow it," Nicole replied, not bothering to hide her sarcasm. Jessica's professional mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something cold and calculating beneath. "Family is everything to me. Nicole, I've dedicated my life to caring for the Millers, something you might understand if you hadn't stayed away for 15 years. Is that why you visited my mother last month? Out of family dedication?" Jessica's expression didn't change, but Nicole noticed her hands tighten briefly. Someone had to check on Amanda. Edward was too ill to travel. How convenient that she became ill right after your visit. "Coincidences happen," Jessica said smoothly. "Just like Cody Davis showing up right after Betty died. Just like you arriving now, when Edward is most vulnerable." She glanced at her watch. "Excuse me, it's time for Edward's medication." As Jessica walked away, Nicole watched her brother go to her uncle, pills and water in hand. Edward obediently put them to his mouth, then discreetly slipped them into his pocket. When Jessica turned to Amanda, in the garden, Cody looked up and caught Nicole's eye. The silent acknowledgement that passed between them surprised her, a moment of unexpected alliance against a common enemy. Her phone buzzed with a text from Elena. "Preliminary results. Call me ASAP. This is serious. Aconitine." Dr. Sanchez's voice crackled through Nicole's phone as she paced the length of her bedroom. "It's in all the samples you gave me, in varying concentrations." Nicole pressed the phone closer to her ear. "Aconitine? What is that?" "A neurotoxin derived from monkshood, also called wolfsbane or aconite. It's a flowering plant, highly toxic, causes gastrointestinal issues, then progresses to numbness, weakness, visual disturbances, and eventually heart arrhythmias." Elena paused. "Nicole, this isn't accidental. The concentrations are too precise, too consistent to be environmental contamination. Someone's administering it deliberately," Nicole confirmed, her worst fears validated. "Exactly, and they know what they're doing. Small doses over time, building up in the system, it mimics numerous natural illnesses, making it hard to detect unless you're specifically looking for it." Another pause. "You realize I have to report this to the authorities." "I know, but give me 24 hours first. I need to gather more evidence." After ending the call, Nicole sat on the edge of her bed, Catherine's diary open beside her. The latest decoded entries painted a clear picture of her aunt's growing suspicion of Jessica, but suspicion wasn't proof, and proof was what she needed to protect her family. A soft tap at her door made her quickly hide the diary. "Come in." Cody entered, closing the door quietly behind him. "Miss Harper is occupied with your mother." "We don't have much time." Nicole studied him, weighing her options. Finally, she decided to take a chance. "The medications my uncle and mother have been taking contain aconitine, a poison derived from a plant." If Cody was surprised, he didn't show it. "Monkshood. It grows in the northeastern corner of the property. I've been removing it systematically since I arrived." "You knew," Betty suspected. Before she died, she'd been collecting samples of Catherine's medication. Her notes mentioned symptoms consistent with aconite poisoning. Nicole leaned forward. "Cody, it's time for the whole truth. Who are you really?" He hesitated, then straightened his shoulders. "Not here. There's something I need to show you first. Michael's old room. Have you been inside?" "It's been locked since I arrived. Jessica keeps the key, but I know another way in. Meet me there in 20 minutes. 3rd floor, East Wing." The 3rd floor of Highland Estate was rarely used, filled with guest rooms that hadn't seen visitors in years. Michael's room stood at the end of the hallway, door firmly closed with a heavy padlock securing it. Nicole arrived to find Cody already waiting, silently indicating she should follow him. He led her to the adjacent room, then to a connecting bathroom. Removing the mirror above the sink revealed a small service passage. "The original owners built maintenance passages between rooms," he explained. "Betty showed me when I first arrived. The passage was narrow and dusty, clearly unused for decades. They emerged into Michael's bedroom, frozen in time like a museum exhibit to a lost son. Posters of 90s rock bands adorned the walls, trophies lined a shelf, and a collection of baseball caps hung on hooks. "Jessica keeps it exactly as it was," Cody said softly. "Comes in weekly to dust, but nothing is ever moved or removed." Nicole ran her fingers over the desk, examining framed photographs. Michael with his parents. Michael playing baseball. Michael grinning at the camera with his arm around a pretty blonde girl. Sarah Thompson, Cody confirmed, noticing her interest in the photo. She was beautiful. Yes, she was. His voice carried a weight of sadness that seemed too personal for someone who claimed to have lost his mother at 8. Nicole turned to face him. "What are we looking for? Betty told me Michael had a hiding place, somewhere even his parents didn't know about." Cody moved to the bookshelf, scanning the titles. She wasn't sure exactly where, but thought it might be near his favorite books. They searched methodically, checking behind picture frames, under floorboards, inside the mattress. Finally, Nicole noticed a slight discoloration on the wall behind the headboard. Pressing against it revealed a loose panel that slid aside, exposing a small cubbyhole. Inside was a metal box, rusty with age. Nicole pulled it out with trembling hands and placed it on the bed between them. The lock was old and yielded easily to Cody's pocket knife. The contents were a time capsule of young love and desperate plans. Letters from Sarah to Michael, tied with faded ribbon, a small ultrasound image, a map with a route marked in red, leading to a town hundreds of miles away, and beneath everything, a journal with Catherine's name inscribed on the first page. "This isn't the same diary my mother gave me," Nicole said, flipping through the pages. "Catherine must have kept multiple journals," Cody suggested. "This one seems more personal." The entries were not coded but written in clear, increasingly frantic language. Nicole read aloud from the final pages. June 15th. Michael has been gone a week. Edward refuses to call the police, insisting he'll return when he comes to his senses. I found Sarah's number and called her parents home, but Robert Thompson said she'd left for Europe. I don't believe him. Something is terribly wrong. June 20th. Jessica suggested a private investigator, someone discreet who won't embarrass the family. I agreed, desperate for any help. She recommended someone she knew from nursing school whose brother works in law enforcement. July 3rd. The investigator found nothing. It's as if both Michael and Sarah vanished into thin air. Edward is drinking heavily. Jessica has moved into the guest room to be available at all hours. July 15th. I'm beginning to feel strange. Stomach pains, dizziness. Doctor says it's stress and prescribed rest. Jessica has been preparing all my meals, insisting I need to keep up my strength. August 4. Found Jessica in Michael's room today, going through his things. She claimed to be cleaning, but I caught her trying to open his desk drawer. When confronted, she suggested my episodes are making me paranoid. What episodes? I don't remember having episodes. August 16th. Edward is completely dependent on Jessica now. I'm too weak to intervene. My hands shake so badly I can barely write. I've stopped taking the tea Jessica brings. Too late, I fear. Must contact Amanda. The final entry trailed off mid-sentence. Nicole closed the journal, her throat tight. She knew. Yes, Cody agreed, but couldn't prove it in time. Nicole picked up one of Sarah's letters, reading silently before looking up at Cody with widening eyes. This letter. Sarah tells Michael she's 2 months pregnant. She's excited but terrified about their plan to run away together. She shuffled through the remaining letters. The last one is dated the day before Michael disappeared. They were meeting at Spencer Creek Bridge to leave town together. Cody reached for the ultrasound image. Their child. You. Nicole met his gaze steadily. That's what you couldn't tell us downstairs. You're not just Sarah's son. You're Michael's son, too. You're a Miller. Before Cody could respond, a distant crash followed by a shout echoed through the house. They quickly replaced everything except Catherine's journal and hurried back through the passage. Downstairs, they found Amanda collapsed on the parlor floor, Jessica kneeling beside her. Checking her pulse, Edward stood frozen in the doorway, face ashen. What happened? Nicole demanded, rushing to her mother's side. She insisted on walking unassisted, Jessica explained, her voice clinical. Against my explicit instructions, She collapsed before I could reach her. Amanda's eyes fluttered open, focusing on Nicole. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't drink." "Shh. Save your strength," Jessica soothed, efficiently administering an injection. "This will help with the pain." "What are you giving her?" Nicole asked sharply. "A mild sedative Dr. Reynolds prescribed." Jessica's smile was professional but cold. "Edward, you should take your medication as well. All this excitement isn't good for your heart." Edward's hand went to his chest. "Perhaps you're right. I do feel rather strange." He swayed slightly, face paling further. "Uncle Edward." Nicole moved toward him, but Jessica was faster. "It's another episode," Jessica declared, taking Edward's arm. "Cody, help me get him to his room, Nicole. Stay with your mother until I return." As they guided Edward away, Nicole noticed a small smile playing at the corners of Jessica's mouth. She turned back to her mother, who had again lost consciousness, a thin trail of spittle at the corner of her lips. "Hang on, Mom," she whispered. "I'm going to end this, I promise." The hospital corridor was sterile and quiet, save for the distant beeping of monitors and the soft-soled footsteps of nurses making their rounds. Nicole sat outside Edward's room, her body tense as she watched Jessica speaking with Dr. Reynolds, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses whose professional demeanor couldn't quite mask the nervous glances he kept shooting in Nicole's direction. "Heart arrhythmia, that's the official diagnosis," Jessica announced as she approached Nicole. "Dr. Reynolds wants to keep him overnight for observation, but he's confident Edward will recover with proper medication." "What a relief," Nicole replied, her voice deliberately neutral. "And what about the blood tests I requested? The toxicology screen?" Jessica's smile tightened. "Dr. Reynolds doesn't believe those are necessary given Edward's known condition." "I insist," Nicole said, standing to match Jessica's height. "As does my uncle." Dr. Reynolds cleared his throat. "Miss Miller, your uncle's symptoms are consistent with cardiac arrhythmia. Running unnecessary tests would only burden our limited resources and—" "Dr. Reynolds," Nicole interrupted. "I've already submitted samples of my uncle's medication to the state laboratory. They've identified aconitine, a potent neurotoxin. I'd hate to inform them that Highland General Hospital refused to conduct standard toxicology screenings on a potential poisoning victim." The doctor's face paled. "Poisoning? That's a serious accusation." "One easily verified with proper testing," Nicole countered. Jessica placed a reassuring hand on the doctor's arm. "James, perhaps it's best to humor them. When the tests come back negative, it will put these ridiculous suspicions to rest." Dr. Reynolds nodded stiffly. "I'll order the tests, but I maintain that this is unnecessary." As he walked away, Jessica's composed facade slipped just enough for Nicole to glimpse the fury beneath. "You're making a mistake, Nicole. Your accusations are causing unnecessary stress for everyone, especially Edward. I'm not the one hurting him, Jessica." Jessica leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Be careful. You have no idea what you're doing." Before Nicole could respond, the elevator doors opened, and Cody stepped out, looking distinctly uncomfortable in the hospital environment. "How is he?" he asked, keeping a cautious distance from Jessica. "Stable," Nicole replied. "Mom, no change. The nurse is with her." Cody shifted his weight. "Mr. Davis from the sheriff's office is at the estate. He wants to speak with you about the items you reported missing." Jessica's eyebrows rose. "You called the sheriff without consulting me." "I'm a forensic investigator reporting potential evidence in what I believe is a criminal case," Nicole replied calmly. "I don't need your permission." Jessica's smile returned, cold and calculating. "Of course. Well, I'll stay with Edward. He'll want a familiar face when he wakes." She turned, pausing to add, "Cody, I believe your presence here is inappropriate. You should return to your duties." After she disappeared into Edward's room, Nicole led Cody to a quiet corner of the waiting area. "Any news from your lab contact?" he asked. "Elena confirmed aconitine in all the samples." Nicole replied, "She's reported it to the authorities, but it could take days for them to act. We don't have that kind of time." Cody nodded. "What do you need from me?" Nicole studied him, making a decision. The truth. All of it. This time. They found a small cafe across from the hospital, quiet enough for private conversation. Cody wrapped his hands around a coffee mug, staring into its depths as if gathering courage. Betty raised me, just as I told Edward, he began. But I was only a few months old when Sarah died. Not 8 years. Betty was Sarah's midwife when she gave birth in hiding. She delivered me in a cabin 50 miles from Highland Estate. And Michael, Nicole prompted gently. Gone by then. Sarah never knew what happened to him. She waited at Spencer Creek Bridge that night, but he never arrived. Cody's knuckles whitened around the mug. Betty said Sarah was convinced Jessica had something to do with his disappearance. She'd overheard Jessica arguing with Michael the day before, threatening to tell Edward about what really happened to Catherine if Michael didn't end things with Sarah. So Sarah went into hiding to protect their child. You. Cody nodded. She was terrified Jessica would come after her next. For 8 years, we moved from town to town, always looking over our shoulders. Then Sarah started getting sick. The same symptoms Catherine had. Within months, she was gone. Jessica found her, Nicole concluded. Betty thought so. She moved us even further away after that. Changed my name. Kept me hidden. When I was old enough, she told me everything. About my parents. About Highland Estate. About my inheritance. His voice hardened. And about Jessica Harper. Yet you came here, right into her territory. Why? Because Betty was dying, and she was afraid her knowledge would die with her. She'd spent years gathering evidence against Jessica, but as a housekeeper, no one took her seriously. Cody finally looked up. I came to finish what she started, to expose Jessica for what she is, and to claim your birthright, Nicole suggested. A sad smile crossed his face. I never expected Edward to accept me. I just wanted justice for my parents. He hesitated. There's more. After your mother arrived, Jessica became erratic, nervous. She started checking the old stables at night. The stables. They've been abandoned for years. Exactly. Something's hidden there. Something she doesn't want found. Nicole's phone buzzed with a text from Elena. Hospital talk screen ordered by Dr. Reynolds mysteriously canceled. Called in a favor with lab tech. New samples being drawn now. We need to move quickly, Nicole said, showing him the message. Jessica's getting desperate. Which makes her dangerous, Cody warned. Betty suspected Jessica personally killed 4 people. Michael, Catherine, Sarah, and an old caretaker who caught her tampering with Catherine's food. If she thinks we're close to exposing her, Nicole's mind raced with possibilities. We need proof, concrete evidence that will convince the authorities to act immediately. The stables, Cody suggested. Whatever she's hiding there, it must be important. Tonight, then, Nicole decided. After everyone's asleep. As they left the cafe, Cody hesitated. Nicole, there's one more thing you should know. About us. That we're cousins. She smiled slightly at his surprised expression. I figured that out already. And it doesn't bother you. That you're my long-lost cousin. Why would it? Something flickered in his eyes. Disappointment. No reason. We should get back to the hospital. When they returned, they found Frank Parker, the former caretaker, sitting beside Edward's bed. Jessica was notably absent. Frank, Nicole exclaimed. I didn't know you were in town. The older man stood, embracing her warmly. Heard Edward was in the hospital, couldn't stay away. He nodded respectfully to Cody. You must be Betty's boy. She spoke highly of you in her letters. You knew Betty? Cody asked, surprised. For 40 years, Frank confirmed. We kept in touch after Jessica had me fired. Betty never trusted that woman, and neither did I. He lowered his voice. I need to speak with you both, privately, about the night Michael disappeared. They found an empty consultation room. Frank's weathered hands trembled slightly as he spoke. I've carried this too long, he began. That night, I was checking the property before a big storm hit. Saw Jessica driving toward the old stables around midnight. She had her headlights off, moving slow, like she didn't want to be noticed. Cody leaned forward. Did you see Michael? Frank shook his head. Not then, but I noticed her trunk was open a few inches. Like something was too big to fit properly. I followed at a distance, curious. She pulled up to the stables, and I lost sight of her for maybe 20 minutes. When she came back, the trunk was closed, and she was covered in mud. Despite the rain not having started yet. Did you investigate? Nicole asked. Tried to. Next morning I went to check. But Jessica caught me. Said if I valued my job, I'd keep my nose out of family business. Frank's eyes darkened. 2 weeks later, she accused me of stealing from the house. Edward was too grief-stricken over Michael to question her, and I was gone that same day. Nicole exchanged a glance with Cody. Frank, would you be willing to make a statement to the sheriff? That's why I'm here after all these years. It's time for the truth. Frank stood. Betty always said that boy would come back to Highland Estate one day, one way or another. He looked meaningfully at Cody. Guess she was right. After Frank left, Nicole turned to Cody. We need to search those stables tonight. Whatever Jessica's hiding, it's been there for 26 years. And if we find what I think we'll find, Cody asked quietly. Nicole squeezed his hand. Then you'll finally have justice for your parents, and maybe Edward can finally have peace. The moment lingered between them. Hands still joined, until a nurse appeared to announce that Edward was awake and asking for them both. Edward looked frail against the stark hospital sheets, but his eyes were clearer than Nicole had seen since her arrival at Highland Estate. The hospital had administered fluids and electrolytes, flushing some of the toxins from his system. Jessica's gone to get coffee, he said when they entered. His voice was weak but determined. We don't have much time. Nicole sat beside him, taking his hand. The blood tests confirmed aconitine poisoning. Dr. Reynolds tried to cancel them, but a lab technician ran them anyway. Edward closed his eyes briefly. All these years, I trusted her completely. She exploited that trust, Nicole said gently, just as she did with Catherine. And my son, Edward turned to Cody, studying him with new intensity. You have his eyes, Catherine's eyes. I should have seen it immediately. Cody shifted uncomfortably. I wanted to tell you the truth, but you were smart to be cautious, Edward interrupted. If Jessica had realized who you were, he didn't finish the thought. Tell me about Sarah. Was she happy at least before the end? She was strong, Cody replied carefully. She never stopped loving Michael, or hoping that someday we could come back to Highland Estate as a family. Edward's eyes filled with tears. I was a fool. My pride cost me everything. My son, my wife, and 26 years with my grandson. He squeezed Nicole's hand. Your mother. Stable but weakening, Nicole reported. The doctors are working to identify the exact toxin variant to administer the right antidote. Edward nodded grimly. Jessica won't stop. She's too close to getting what she wants. Which is what, exactly? Nicole asked. Highland Estate. Edward's voice hardened. She's been positioning herself for years, becoming indispensable, isolating me from friends and family, gradually taking control of my finances, with no direct heir. She likely assumed everything would eventually come to her. But then Cody appeared, Nicole said, and Mom and I arrived, disrupting all her careful plans. Edward attempted to sit up straighter, wincing at the effort. The sheriff contacted me. They're searching for Jessica's financial records based on your evidence. Cody moved closer. We believe Jessica hid evidence at the old stables. Frank Parker saw her there the night Michael disappeared. Understanding dawned in Edward's eyes. Michael's body. We're going to investigate tonight, Nicole explained. If we find what we suspect, the authorities can't continue to ignore our claims. Edward reached for Cody's hand, clasping it alongside Nicole's. Be careful. Jessica is dangerous when cornered. The door opened, and Jessica entered with a tray of coffee cups. Her practiced smile faltered slightly at the tableau before her, but quickly recovered. Well, isn't this cozy? She remarked, setting down the tray. Edward, you should be resting, not entertaining. They're family, Jessica, Edward replied, his voice stronger. Something you've tried very hard to keep away from me. Jessica's smile remained fixed. I've only ever had your best interests at heart. You know that. She turned to Nicole and Cody. Visiting hours are nearly over. Edward needs his rest. Actually, Nicole said, standing, the doctor suggested familiar faces would help keep him oriented. I'll be staying tonight. Jessica's composure slipped momentarily. That's unnecessary. I've cared for Edward for years. I know his needs better than anyone. Nevertheless, Edward interjected, I want Nicole to stay. Jessica's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. As you wish, Cody. You should return to Highland Estate, with everyone here. The property is unattended. After a meaningful glance at Nicole, Cody nodded. Of course. I'll check on Mrs. Miller as well. As he left, Jessica busied herself adjusting Edward's pillows and checking his IV line. Dr. Reynolds is concerned about these unnecessary tests, Nicole ordered. They're placing additional strain on your system. Jessica, Edward said quietly. I know about the aconitine. Her hands stilled for just a moment before resuming their task. I don't know what you're talking about. Catherine's journal, Sarah's letters, the medallion. It's all coming together now. Edward's voice was calm but firm. What did you do to my son? Jessica straightened, her mask of concern transforming into something cold and calculating. You're confused, Edward. The medication is affecting your thinking. Perhaps we should call Dr. Reynolds? To prescribe more poison, Nicole interjected. Jessica's laugh was brittle. This is absurd. I've dedicated my life to this family. Why would I harm any of you? Highland Estate, Edward replied simply. You've always wanted what wasn't yours. Something dangerous flashed in Jessica's eyes. Everything I did was for us, Edward. Catherine was weak. She couldn't handle the responsibilities of the estate. And Michael, he was going to throw away his inheritance for that Thompson girl. The admission hung in the air between them. Edward's face had gone pale. So you did kill him? Jessica straightened her shoulders. I protected what was ours. What should have been ours. Her voice dropped to a near whisper. I loved you for years while you were blind to everything but Catherine. I was the one who held the estate together after she died. The one who cared for you when everyone else abandoned you. You poisoned me, Edward said, his voice breaking. Just like you poisoned Catherine. I saved you from yourself. Jessica's composure returned, a chilling calm settling over her features. This conversation is over. You're clearly not well, Edward. I'm going to speak with Dr. Reynolds about adjusting your medication. As she turned to leave, Nicole blocked her path. You're not going anywhere except to jail. Jessica smiled thinly. On what evidence? The ramblings of a sick old man. The desperate accusations of a niece who abandoned her family for 15 years. Or perhaps the word of a gardener with suspicious motives. She stepped closer to Nicole. Choose your next move carefully. People have accidents at Highland Estate with alarming frequency. With that, she brushed past Nicole and out the door. At Highland Estate, Cody moved through the shadowy halls with practiced stealth. He'd learned the rhythm of the old house during his months there, which floorboards creaked, which doors hinged silently, making his way to Amanda's room. He found her sleeping restlessly, her breath shallow and labored. Gently, he placed a hand on her forehead. Hang on, Mrs. Miller. Just a little longer. As he turned to leave, something on the nightstand caught his eye. A prescription bottle with Jessica's handwriting that hadn't been there that morning. Carefully, he pocketed it, then continued to Betty's old room in the servants' wing. The room remained untouched since her death, preserved more out of convenience than sentiment. Cody moved directly to the loose floorboard beneath the small writing desk, retrieving a weathered leather journal, Betty's record of her suspicions spanning decades. As he leafed through the familiar pages, a new urgency gripped him. Betty had documented everything. Jessica's strange behavior around Catherine's medication, her unusual interest in estate finances, her private meetings with Dr. Reynolds. The last entry, dated just 3 days before Betty's death, sent a chill down his spine. Jessica found me checking the stables today. I think she knows I suspect. The medication she gave me for my high blood pressure tastes bitter. I've stopped taking it, but I fear it's too late. If anything happens to me, the truth is buried where Michael rests. God forgive us all for our silence. Cody closed the journal, a cold determination settling over him. Tonight, after 26 years, Michael Miller would finally be found. A sudden noise from downstairs startled him. Moving cautiously to the window, he saw Jessica's car pulling up the driveway. She emerged. Her movements hurried as she entered the house. Quickly, Cody slipped out of Betty's room, making his way to the kitchen and out the back door. From the shadows of the garden, he watched as lights came on in Jessica's quarters, then in the study. Minutes later, she emerged with a flashlight and a shovel, heading toward the old stables, heart pounding. He texted Nicole J back at estate, heading to stables with shovel. Moving whatever's buried. Coming. The response came immediately. On my way. Don't confront her alone. Wait for me. But as Jessica disappeared into the darkness, Cody knew there wasn't time to wait. Whatever evidence had lain buried for 26 years was about to disappear forever. Taking a deep breath, he followed the bobbing beam of her flashlight into the night. Rain began to fall as Nicole's car sped down the winding road toward Highland Estate, drops splattering against the windshield in an increasingly frantic rhythm that matched her heartbeat. She'd left Edward in the care of a sheriff's deputy with strict instructions that no one, especially not Jessica or Dr. Reynolds, was to administer any medication. Her phone buzzed with another text from Cody. "She's digging behind the north wall. Hurry." "I'm trying," she muttered, gripping the steering wheel tighter as she navigated a sharp curve. The headlights briefly illuminated a figure on the roadside. Frank Parker. Trudging through the rain with determination, Nicole slowed and rolled down her window. "Frank, what are you doing out here?" The old caretaker squinted against the rain. "Heading to Highland Estate," Sheriff called. "Said they want to speak with me tomorrow morning. Thought I'd walk over tonight. Be ready." "Get in." "Jessica's at the stables right now." Frank's eyes widened as he climbed into the passenger seat. "She's moving the body after all these years. She knows we're onto her," Nicole explained, accelerating once more. "All her careful plans are falling apart." Frank stared ahead grimly. "I should have spoken up 26 years ago. Maybe Catherine would still be alive. And Sarah. You couldn't have known what Jessica was capable of," Nicole assured him. "That's just it. I did know. I saw the way she looked at Edward, even when Catherine was alive, like she was entitled to him, to everything the Millers had." Frank shook his head. "Betty knew too. We talked about it. But who would believe the hired help over a trained nurse?" As they approached Highland Estate, Nicole killed the headlights and pulled onto a service road that circled behind the main property toward the old stables. The dilapidated structure loomed through the rain, its weathered boards silver gray in the moonlight. "Stay in the car," Nicole instructed, retrieving a flashlight from the glove compartment. Frank scoffed. "Not a chance. I've been waiting 26 years for this moment." They approached cautiously, the only sounds the pattering of rain on the rotted roof and the rhythmic scrape of a shovel from within. Nicole signaled for Frank to circle around to the back entrance while she approached the main doors, which stood slightly ajar. Through the gap, she could see Jessica illuminated by a battery-powered lantern, digging frantically in the earthen floor. Sweat mingled with rain on her face as she tossed aside shovelfuls of dirt. A sizable hole had already formed, revealing what looked like decayed fabric. Nicole's stomach tightened as she realized she was looking at the remnants of clothing still draped over human remains. She silently documented the scene with her phone's camera, then scanned the interior for Cody. He was nowhere in sight. Just as she was about to enter, Jessica stopped digging. "I know you're there," she called without turning around. "You always were too curious for your own good." Nicole froze, uncertain if Jessica was addressing her. 26 years I've protected this secret," Jessica continued, still facing the hole. "And now you think you can just expose everything, claim what isn't yours." A movement in the shadows to Jessica's left revealed Cody, partially concealed behind a rotting support beam. Jessica had been speaking to him, not Nicole. "It wasn't yours to take either," Cody replied, stepping forward. "Highland Estate, Edward's affection, none of it belonged to you." Jessica laughed bitterly. "I earned it, year after year of service, devotion, protection. What did Michael do to deserve his birthright? Or you?" She gestured contemptuously at the hole. "He was weak, just like his mother, ready to throw away generations of Miller legacy for a summer romance. He was going to be a father," Cody said, his voice tight with emotion. "He was taking responsibility." "Responsibility," Jessica spat. "He was abandoning his duty to the estate, to his family name." She raised the shovel slightly. "I tried to reason with him that night, told him to end things with the Thompson girl, return home where he belonged. He laughed at me, said I was pathetic, pining after his father all those years." Nicole eased the door open wider, stepping silently into the stables. Jessica was so focused on Cody she didn't notice. "So you killed him," Cody stated flatly. Jessica's grip tightened on the shovel. "It was an accident. One moment we were arguing, the next, the shovel was in my hands. He fell so quietly." Her voice took on a dreamlike quality. "I panicked at first, but then realized it was for the best. Edward would need me more than ever. The estate would finally have proper management. And Sarah, was she an accident too? Jessica's expression hardened. She was a complication. After Catherine, I thought all threats to my position were eliminated. Then I discovered Sarah had given birth to Michael's child. I couldn't allow another Miller heir to suddenly appear. So you tracked her down and poisoned her, Nicole said, making her presence known. Jessica whirled around, shovel raised defensively. The prodigal niece. Of course you'd be here too. Her eyes darted between Nicole and Cody. You're too late. Once I move these remains, there will be no evidence. Just the wild accusations of a disgruntled gardener and an absent family member against a devoted caretaker of 26 years. It's over. Jessica, Nicole said calmly, stepping closer. The sheriff has your financial records. The hospital confirmed aconitine poisoning. Frank Parker is giving his statement about the night Michael disappeared. As if on cue, Frank appeared in the back doorway. Hello, Jessica. Been a long time. Jessica's composure cracked. You, she hissed. I should have dealt with you years ago, just like Betty. Betty left evidence too, Cody added, holding up the worn journal. She documented everything. Her suspicions about Catherine's illness, Sarah's death, even her own poisoning. Jessica's eyes narrowed calculatingly. Evidence that will never make it to the authorities. In one swift motion, she reached into her pocket and withdrew a small revolver. This is regrettable, but necessary. Another tragic accident at Highland Estate. 3 intruders, shot while trespassing. Poor Edward, losing the last of his family in one night. Edward knows everything, Nicole said, trying to keep her voice steady despite the gun aimed at her chest. Killing us won't change that. Edward is a sick old man with dementia, Jessica countered. His testimony won't stand against mine, especially after his beloved niece and her newfound friend are revealed to have been conspiring to steal his fortune. That's your plan, Frank scoffed. Murder all 3 of us and claim self-defense. Jessica smiled coldly. It worked once before. Her finger tightened on the trigger. Goodbye, Cody. You're as much trouble as your father was. Time seemed to slow as the gun swung toward Cody. Nicole lunged forward instinctively, shouting a warning. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space, echoing off the rotted timbers. Pain exploded in Nicole's shoulder as the bullet found her instead of its intended target. She staggered backward, dimly aware of Cody shouting her name. Through a haze of shock, she saw Frank tackle Jessica from behind, the gun skittering across the dirt floor. Cody was at her side instantly, pressing his jacket against the wound. Nicole, stay with me. I'm okay, she managed, though the spreading warmth beneath his makeshift compress suggested otherwise. Get the gun. Jessica and Frank struggled on the ground, the older man's strength surprising as he pinned her arms. You ruined everything, she screamed, her composure completely shattered. The estate was supposed to be mine. Edward was supposed to be mine. Cody carefully leaned Nicole against a post and moved toward the gun. Jessica, seeing his intention, renewed her struggle against Frank with manic strength, freeing one arm to claw at his face. The old caretaker yelled in pain as her nails raked across his eye. In the moment of distraction, Jessica broke free, scrambling toward the gun. Cody reached it first, backing away with the weapon raised. Jessica froze, then slowly smiled. You won't shoot me, she said with chilling confidence. You're not a killer. No, came a new voice from the doorway. But I am. Jessica turned to find Edward Miller standing in the entrance, pale but steady. Another revolver, an antique from his study, pointed directly at her. Edward, she breathed. You don't understand. I did everything for you, for us. You killed my son, Edward replied, his voice breaking. Poisoned my wife, destroyed my family. Jessica's face contorted with rage. They were weak, unworthy. I was the only one who truly cared for Highland Estate, who understood its legacy. Highland Estate was never about land or legacy, Edward said softly. It was about family, something you could never understand. As if punctuating his words, sirens wailed in the distance, drawing closer by the second. Jessica's eyes darted wildly between the 3 people and the gun in Edward's hand. With a cry of desperation, she lunged toward him. The ancient revolver discharged with a thunderous crack, the recoil nearly knocking Edward off his feet. Jessica stumbled, a look of shocked betrayal on her face as she pressed her hand against the spreading red stain on her abdomen. She turned toward the hole she'd dug, toward Michael's remains, and crumpled beside them, the killer falling alongside her victim after 26 years. The hospital corridor was a blur of activity, sheriff's deputies taking statements, medical personnel rushing between rooms, and the occasional flash of a crime scene photographer documenting evidence. Nicole sat on an examination table, wincing as a doctor finished bandaging her shoulder. "You're lucky," the doctor remarked, securing the final piece of tape. "The bullet went straight through, missed anything vital. A few weeks of physical therapy, and you'll barely notice it happened." Nicole nodded absently, her thoughts elsewhere. "My mother and uncle. Your uncle is stable. The shot he fired took a lot out of him, but physically he's recovering well." The doctor's expression softened. "Your mother's case is more complex. The toxin had been building in her system for weeks. We've started treatment. But," he left the sentence unfinished. "But it might be too late," Nicole finished for him. "Let's focus on one day at a time," he replied diplomatically. "The sheriff is waiting to speak with you when you're ready." After he left, Nicole carefully pulled on a clean shirt that a nurse had provided. Her blood-stained blouse had been taken as evidence, along with the bullet removed from her shoulder. It all felt surreal. The gunshot, Jessica's confession, Edward appearing like an avenging angel at the stable door. A soft knock preceded Sheriff Wilson's entrance. The woman was in her 50s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing, and the weathered face of someone who'd seen the worst of human behavior. "Ms. Miller, how are you feeling?" "Like I've been shot," Nicole replied with a weak smile. The sheriff nodded, pulling up a chair. "I've got statements from your uncle and Mr. Parker. I need yours to complete the picture." For the next 20 minutes, Nicole recounted everything, finding Catherine's diary, discovering the aconitine poisoning, the secrets in Michael's room, and finally, the confrontation at the stables. The sheriff took notes, occasionally asking for clarification, but otherwise listening silently. "Jessica Harper is in surgery," she said when Nicole finished. "The doctors aren't optimistic. Your uncle's shot punctured her liver. And if she survives, she'll face multiple charges: first-degree murder for Michael Miller, second-degree murder or manslaughter for Catherine Miller and Sarah Thompson, attempted murder for you, your mother, and your uncle." Sheriff Wilson closed her notebook. "Plus fraud, poisoning, and likely more as we dig deeper." "What about my uncle?" "He shot her. Self-defense. She was armed and had already shot you. No jury would convict him." The sheriff stood. "We've recovered the remains from the stable. The medical examiner will confirm identity, but the medallion found with the body strongly suggests it's Michael Miller." Nicole nodded, throat tight. "His son should know. Cody Davis." "Yes, we'll need his statement too." The sheriff paused. "There's something else you should know. The lab work on your mother's blood samples showed recent exposure to a much higher concentration of aconitine than we found in your uncle's system." Nicole's stomach dropped. Jessica was accelerating the poisoning. "Looks that way. With everything falling apart, she was tying up loose ends." Sheriff Wilson's expression was grim. "I've stationed a deputy outside your mother's room, just in case Jessica has accomplices we don't know about yet." After the sheriff left, Nicole made her way to her mother's room. Amanda lay motionless, connected to various machines monitoring her vital signs. The steady beep of the heart monitor provided small comfort. She was alive, but for how long? Nicole sat beside the bed, taking her mother's cold hand. "You were right, Mom. About everything. We found Michael. We stopped Jessica." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Now you just need to wake up so we can go home. All of us together." A gentle clearing of throat announced Cody's presence. He stood awkwardly in the doorway, a disposable cup of coffee in each hand. "Thought you might need this," he said, offering one to Nicole. "Thanks." She accepted gratefully, the warmth seeping through her fingers. "Have you seen Edward?" Cody nodded, taking the seat opposite her. "They're discharging him tomorrow. The doctor says being off Jessica's medication for the past few days has already improved his condition dramatically." They sat in companionable silence, the rhythmic beeping of Amanda's monitors the only sound. Finally, Nicole spoke. "What happens now? With you and Edward, I mean." Cody stared into his coffee. "I don't know. For so long, my goal was exposing Jessica. I never really thought beyond that." You're his grandson, his only living descendant. By blood. Yes, but I'm a stranger to him. Cody hesitated. And there's more. The truth I couldn't tell either of you before. He took a deep breath. Jessica was partly right about one thing. Michael and Sarah did plan to run away together, but they weren't just running from Edward's disapproval. They were running from Jessica. Nicole leaned forward. What do you mean? The night Michael disappeared, he wasn't meeting Sarah at Spencer Creek Bridge. He was confronting Jessica at the stables. Cody's voice dropped. According to Sarah's diary, which Betty kept all these years, Michael had discovered that Jessica was slowly poisoning Catherine. He had evidence, samples of medication, notes of Catherine's symptoms. He threatened to expose her if she didn't leave Highland Estate forever. And instead, she killed him. Nicole's hand tightened around her cup. Does Edward know this part? Cody shook his head. Not yet. I wanted to wait until he was stronger. He deserves the whole truth, no matter how painful. I know. Cody finished his coffee, crushing the cup slightly. There's more. The medallion. I didn't find it among Sarah's possessions as I implied. Betty recovered it from Michael's body the night he was killed. Nicole stared at him in shock. Betty knew all along where Michael was buried. She witnessed Jessica bury him. Cody confirmed. She was too afraid to come forward directly. Jessica had already threatened her. Instead, she took the medallion as evidence and spent years building a case